So, if you're anything like me, you've been putting off shiny hunting Flabébé, especially Alpha Flabébé, and the rest of the Florges line. Because other than red Flabébés, and specifically red, blue, and white Florges, none of them are in wild zones, and you just kind of have to get lucky in the overworld. And that's not the best, so I've had something in mind ever since I started learning about overloading spawners, and I finally put in the time to prove that it does work, and it is now possible to spawn all 5 static alpha colors of Flabébé at the same time. The problem is that hunting them isn't great. It's still probably the best option, at least as far as I'm aware, but it's not the best, and I'm gonna run through how this all works. For starters, we're going to come to Restaurant Lawau to start with, and we're gonna be using this building, and this building, and we're gonna go to the Justice Dojo to set up this building. And the reason for that is that right here is the static spawner for the yellow, orange, and blue alpha Flabébé. And over here is the static spawner for the red and white Flabébé. Only one of them is supposed to spawn at a time, but they do have enough locations around that spawner that you can overload them fully. Now, normally, you wouldn't be able to overload it because the roof doesn't have enough space to do the typical things, but we're gonna run through this. So you go to Restaurant Lawau, and you run up these stairs, and we're gonna see scaffolding. Just run up there real quick. And then from here you turn around, and there is our Alpha Flabébé, the blue one this time. Now there is also a Dragonair over there and a Pidgey over there. Both of those can be overloaded to add on to this hunt if you want to hunt Dratini Dragonair, and that Pidgey overloads with a Hawlucha. I'm not going to go over that right now. It's essentially the same method, but a little easier to set up. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to do a little dive over to this roof. Let me do that just in case. Aggro the Flabébé. And we're gonna want to come hang out over here. Actually, we want to go over here. Just wait until it starts floating towards you. And then as it starts getting close, before it does a move, you want to glide across to this platform. And hopefully not lose it. One moment. Alright, let's try this again. Grab the Flabébé. Come hang out over here. As it's coming over, glide across. Come on. There we go. Now, you can try and go up the ladder really quick so that it doesn't get stuck on the scaffolding as bad. And we actually got a good one this time, so we can bring it all the way to the 50 meters to leash, which is right about there. We're gonna drop a save, and then we're gonna reload the game. I am playing on Switch 1, so launching the game and doing travel reloads is going to be slower for me. But that, with how long of a route this is to reset, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is going to make it a little bit more tedious. So now we have the Flabébé here. Ideally, I wouldn't have aggro right now. Let's see if I can do something about that without... Alright. We lost aggro. And it does just happen to work out, based on the spawner location, that if you sit on this exact corner and drop a save and reload, this does work for the step where you would normally go 70 meters away, well 68-ish, from the Mon to reset the spawner. It is just far enough that we should get another Alpha Flabébé spawn. Alright, so now we've got another blue Flabébé over there. We've still got this one over here, and the problem with resetting this traditionally is that normally you would bring it back over to where it spawned, you would save, you would go bench reset, get killed, this, that, and the other thing. There is an easier way for this, because normally the letting them kill you method would pretty much be your only option with how far this is from other reset options like flight points and benches. Wolf in editing here. I misspoke here. You wouldn't actually be able to use the letting them kill you method of resetting this because you would first need to lock the original Flabébé spawn point back on the second roof, which you would have to do by very, very, very carefully getting it over there, letting it break aggro, and not aggroing the other Flabébé in order to be able to save over there. And with the way it's laid out, that's way more trouble than it's worth, so the method that I'm about to showcase is just way simpler, way more consistent, and honestly one of my favorite things I've realized you could do about overloading spawns. But let's get this back over there. Yeah. And over here. Follow me over. Come on. I don't know why it likes using Draining Kiss when it's like 10 feet away. Now, one thing I've been using more, I think I am going to try and lock this in place if I have to. Oh no, I did aggro it. Okay. So let's just try not to die while we group them up. And realistically, I should probably just get Garchomp out. Because what we can do here is Earthquake, knocking them both out. Those were the only two things attacking me, so I can save here. And now when I reload, they will spawn back in knocked out, but their spawn points will be right here. So now I can fly away before they despawn, and when I come back, there will be two spawns. So they're knocked out. We quickly fly back to Restaurant Wow. Put Garchomp away because he is big and in the way. And now we see we have an orange and a yellow Alpha Flabébé spawn. So now I'm gonna go do that one more time so we can get the third spawn locked in, and then I'm gonna go over some stuff. So this is actually a good showcase of what I kind of glossed over with the blue Flabébé the first time. When you're pulling them across the gap, they can get stuck in the scaffolding and under this ledge here. It's actually helpful if this happens, because you... I don't know why it's still... okay. You can just run and break aggro this way, and as long as you save as soon as it drops and it stays there, it being that close doesn't actually prevent you from getting another spawn. So we just go to the very far corner like we did the first time, run back, and it's now easier to pull back across the gap, and it still works. Alright, so I just ran to the corner, saved, reloaded, we still have this one here, and now we have another yellow one and an orange one. Now, this particular spawn right here is the one that causes problems in multiple ways with this hunt, but we'll get to that once this is locked in. So I am going to get this one's attention again. Come on. There we go. What is up with this ladder? Alright. Got its attention, brought it back over. We're going to aggro both of these. We're going to get Garchomp out so that he can sponge a couple of hits. You definitely want to have a high-level Mon that has an AoE attack like Earthquake for this, Like, these are level 20 alphas, it's not that big a threat, but a level 100 with Earthquake will definitely speed things up. So now we'll reset again for the last time for this roof. Quickly fly back to Restaurant Lowell for the second time. And now we have all three of the blue, orange, and yellow alpha Flabébé spawns locked in. So I'm just going to lock in a save to be safe. And now we can go into some of the problems with this. So that blue one is in the problem spot. These three spawn locations are static. They don't seem to roam on their own unless you get their attention. So these will be the locations you're dealing with. And the biggest problem is that if you run all the way to the corner... Actually, I should probably prove this a little. So let's get some information first. The orange and yellow ones that were loaded over there are further back than that marker. So I can easily hit 70 off of those locations, and now those will spawn back in as different spawns. These are all alpha spawns, which means that you can see them up to 70 meters. So if you cannot see them, they are re-rolling, which is helpful for gauging this. The problem is that, let's see if I can get a pin in the right spot. Oh, perfect. So that one right there, if I go all the way to the farthest possible spot on this roof without falling off, is less than 70 meters. So if I remove that pin, you can still see it there in the distance. So you cannot despawn that one to do resets with just running back and forth. Now, what this means is if you only need 2 of these 3 colors, it's great, because you can just reload the whole thing with travel until you get the color you don't need in that position, and then you can run back and forth to respawn the other 2, and then that's fine. But if you want to reset for all 3 of them every time, you are going to have to fly back to Restaurant Lowell and run all the way back up here every time. Because while the vertical render distance, it won't spawn in Mons until you're a certain height. I think it's like 10 meters below them. Dropping down below that height does not despawn them, as far as I'm aware. So the only way to fully despawn them is to get far enough away, and it's just faster to fly to the restaurant than to run all the way out to the right distance and then run back. Now, the Dratini and the Pidgey overloads are easier, because similar to the Flabébé, you can get them to chase you off of the roof. The Pidgey is not aggressive, so you'll need to use a Pokemon that has Taunt to get it to chase you. But they will chase you over the edge if you time it right, and they will chase you to the ground. Now, unlike the Flabébé, you can't get them back up there, but only the horizontal distance from the spawner matters. So with them, you can get them to chase you. They'll chase you to about here-ish before they leash, and then you drop your save, reload, and then just run the 70 meters this way. Drop another save, reload, run back, and it has to be right here so that you are in range to go up the scaffolding again. Because, like I said, it won't spawn in new Mons unless you're at a certain height. So after the saves and reloads for those 2, you will not have the second spawns up here. But if you do that and then come back up here, you are still close enough to where you left those that you can see them, and then it will spawn in the replacement spawns up top. Once they're spawned in, save, run over here, and this bench will be close enough to both the Dratini spawns and or both the Pidgey spawns, whatever you're doing, that you just do a bench reset, it'll despawn everything and reload it, and then you'll go back up the scaffolding, and there will be 2 spawns in both. I will quickly do that off camera, and by quickly I mean not quickly at all, and show you that completed. I would recommend, unlike what I just did, doing those before the Flabébé overload, so that you're not having to deal with multiple Alpha Flabébé chasing you. You are also going to need to wait for an Alpha Dratini or Dragonair spawn to start overloading the Dratini one, because they will just run instead of chasing you. But the second spawn doesn't matter. Also, while I'm going to set this up, one other thing that does help in setting this up, when going for the Alpha Dratini, the Dratini is actually far enough away that you can run all the way to this corner and run back to reload it. And that way you don't have to fly back to Restaurant Luau over and over and over again, just hoping to get an Alpha Dratini so that you can start. Alright, that took, like, I think 12 rerolls, which is the most I've had to do for that, but it does work. Just to showcase it since I'm here, right about there is where you're going to want to leash the Dratini and the Pidgey to. The Pidgey ends up being a little bit further to the left, but over there is our new Dratini. I just did a final save and reload with both on screen, so we are going to hop back down. The weirdness in how vertical distances work for stuff like this means that the Dratini up there is still spawned, even though we can't see it. So now we just do a quick bench reset. We go all the way back up the scaffolding again. And now we have a Dratini and an Alpha Dragonair. So now we have our 3 overloaded Flabébés and our 2 Dratini line spawns, and all that's left is the Pidgey. Alright, and there we have it. We still have all 3 of our Flabébé, we have the 2 Dratini line, and now we have a Pidgey and a Hawlucha. Now, there is a small problem with the Dratinis in this situation. So I'm going to drop another hard save real quick to showcase this. Now, I mentioned before how you can run back and forth to the corner of the railing to reset 2 of the 3 Flabébé. Now, people have already been doing that back to the corner, like back and forth to the corner reset for this Dratini. I haven't seen anyone overload this spawn before, and the problem with this overload, and specifically with the different positions that it can spawn in new Dratinis and Dragonairs, is that sometimes, I'm going to borrow a term from Papa Hefe, who I learned a lot of the mechanics involved in this from, sometimes that spawner will bleed a spawn, just based on the distance that it chooses to spawn the Mon in. Like that, we just lost the Dragonair. Because I guess it spawned the Dratini in the close spot, and it spawned the Dragonair in the furthest spot possible, which is... it messes with the distance in some way with how far out we go, and like the moment we get back in range of the spawner, that it tries to spawn it in a location that's presumably too far away from us to spawn, which I'm assuming isn't a problem normally, because in most cases you would just keep getting closer and the spawner would try again because it still has 0 mons, and then it spawns the thing anyway. But when you're overloading, it tries to spawn 2, one of them is too far away to spawn, so it spawns 1, and then, hello Ekans, it hits the next check, sees it already has a thing, and then it just doesn't overload. So, in order to preserve that, if that's something you're interested in doing while hunting the Flabébé, you cannot do the back and forth corner resets. Which is unfortunate, because it would be really convenient if you're trying to multi-hunt here. I have not noticed the Hawlucha Pidgey spawn bleeding in any way, though. Not, like, from this side, or doing what we're about to set up on the other side. So, just reset to the point where they're both here. And now we're going to hop across. Going to slip past all of those Flabébé over here. And now we have our red-white Flabébé spawner. I'm just gonna real quick save here, just in case I mess up and have to come all the way back over. Now what we're gonna do here is very similar to the setup for Dratini. Hello, Pidgey. This Pidgey is a static Pidgey spawn. This one doesn't share with anything, so we're just gonna kill that. Make our lives easier. So we lure you to the edge, float a little bit to coax you past it, and then you're gonna come all the way down here. Now, I should leash by the end of the stairs, I think. I don't know if this is too close. We'll find out. Okay, yeah, it's too close. So we're gonna need to pull you further down the stairs. I think I might have just gotten too far away the first time, because I feel like it should have come further down with the initial leash distance. So now we're gonna have to be a little more creative here. That should be far enough. Alright, so I'm a moron and forgot about the part where you need to go 70-ish meters away and do another reload. I think if I had remembered to do that, this would have worked the first time. Now, this is awkward because going in a straight line from the spawner through where it is currently would back you up into the canal, so you kind of have to be careful going up towards the bridge and make sure you're not going too far away from the Flabébé. But as long as you're careful, you can do it. Now, we should have another Flabébé on the roof. Let's see if I can dodge around you without getting... Nope. Okay. Doesn't actually matter if we grab aggro here, I don't think. Yeah, so there is our other Flabébé. This one's gonna chase me all the way up here, so this kind of makes my life easier in a way. Let's see if I can keep aggro, or if it's gonna leash. Now, if it did leash, the easier way to make this work, rather than trying to coax it all the way up here, would be to take the second Flabébé and bring it down to the first one, and then do the knockout reload method from there. Because at that point, you're still in range of the spawner, and they're both still on screen, so doing this reload and saving with them in place, and then flying to the dojo, which is like right next to this, would, in theory, reset them to have the overloaded spawn. So now we quickly fly to the dojo next door. Go up the ladder. And we have our overloaded red and white spawn. Now, we have another problem to deal with. Ideally, this would be a situation where we could fly to the dojo, climb right up this ladder, walk up here, and just run over here to load in all of the Flabébé over there, and that would be a way to easily get enough spawns that we could eventually fly back to Lawao, go up to the first roof, and then check if any of the first Flabébé were shining. But what you might be noticing right now is that we have... hang on. We have our orange and we have our blue. But we do not have a yellow in the distant spawner. I did say that that distant spawner was the one that causes us nothing but problems, and while it is just close enough to the first roof that you can't do back and forth running resets. It is just far enough that if you are doing dojo resets, there is a chance that you bleed that spawn. And now, if you were to save in any way, like traveling or catching something, you would only have 2 spawns in that spawner now. So I am going to reload that again and see if I can showcase getting lucky and maintaining all 3. Now that said, I am pretty sure in my testing earlier that the Dratini Dragonair spawn does also have a chance to bleed if you are coming from the dojo side. The Hawlucha Pidgey, you have to go all the way through the red and white Flabébé spawner to the closest corner of that roof to the second roof in order to spawn them. But I did not find... I did not run into any chances for that one to bleed. So I'm pretty sure the Hawlucha Pidgey is a permanent overload, no matter what you do to it. Alright, so that time, the timing of the spawns just happened to line up with where I was, so we got the far blue one. Got the close yellow, the close orange. We have the Dratini Dragonair. That one can bleed. But we can't see the Hawlucha from here, so in order to see the Hawlucha, I'm gonna drop a save real quick, just so I can maintain all of this as I run through here. Just to showcase it, there is our Pidgey over there. And there should be... Are you proving me a liar? Oh, there's the Hawlucha. Okay. And now I fell off for nothing. So we're gonna reset anyway. So yeah, it wasn't easily visible from that distance, but it was spawned in. So the Pidgey Hawlucha is safe. Now, what does all of this come together to mean in terms of a hunting route? If we come from the dojo side, we are bleeding spawns, and we cannot actually reach the second roof from the third roof on the dojo side, so we would have to go back to Luau, up the scaffolding, and from the first roof to the second roof anyway, if we wanted to catch anything. So the route that I have landed on, stupid turbo controller, to reset this consistently without risking the loss of spawns, and like guaranteeing that you lock in any shinies that you spawn but don't notice, is to come to Luau, go up the scaffolding, jump across to the second roof, jump across to the third roof, fly back to Luau again. Now, I did time myself earlier a couple times, and with Switch 1 load times, from the moment I click on Luau to the moment I reach the endpoint, took about 50 seconds or so. So with Switch 2 load times, it's probably closer to 45, once you have the route down and know what corners you can cut here. Just looking over there, we've got our Hawlucha Pidgey, Dratini Dragonair, all 3 Flabébé. I do think you have to do a roll into the glide to make it across these roofs. And now we have our white and red. So that is the route. I don't think it is possible to shorten it any more than that, which is rough, because 45 to 50 seconds per reset to spawn 5 Flabébé, 2 Dratinis if you're doing that hunt, and a Hawlucha Pidgey if you care about that hunt, is not that many spawns per hour. On the upside, there are a lot of extra spawns coming in around you with how much distance you're covering, so I'm gonna do a quick reset and go over all of those. So from here, when you first go to Luau, there are 2 or 3 Patrat that spawn in here. I've seen it spawn 2 this way, but I have seen it spawn 3 in this one corridor. I don't know if there's a third one in here somewhere right now. Let's call it 3 Patrat right there. There is this Badoo on the ground here. There's another Badoo further down the road that is not in range of Luau itself, but it will be in range later. And now, if we're coming up the stairs, if you are hugging the railing as tight as possible, you are still close enough to this courtyard that you will spawn a monkey in that tree. It's kind of hard to tell, but there is a Panseer there. That Pidgey on the lamppost is too far away. This Pansage is too far away. At night, there will also be a Haunter spawn down there on the tiles. There's also a Ghastly spawn in between these trees, but it's right on the edge, so I don't think it'll be in range unless you're taking a wide turn around the railing. And then there's also, when you're going through the scaffolding, this Trubbish. On top of that, once we are up the scaffolding, we have this Ekans, we have that Fletchling. Over there, we have the Alpha Pidgeot, and my understanding is that there is one static Pidgey spawn over there, and then 3 spawners that can spawn either a Pidgey or a Pidgeotto. If you really, really wanted to, I don't see why you would with how many Pidgeys are in range on this route. You're gonna be getting shiny Pidgeys anyway. But if you wanted to, I think you could overload the Pidgeottos and Pidgey spawners. The only problem being that the only way up there is that Holovator, which I think might be too far down the road to do it effectively. But that's over there too, so if nothing else, you'll be resetting an Alpha Pidgeot while you're doing this. When you're coming across here, there is a Pidgey down here on this lamppost. There are 2 Pidgey over there. There's a Weedle in that tree, although I don't think it spawns there every time. I think there's just a chance to spawn it. And then that second Badoo I was talking about spawns in right around that circular section. We can't see it because it's not rendered, but it is spawned there, right around this distance from us. And then go across, do a quick check. I seem to have lost a Dratini spawn. I think that's probably from me standing on that roof while spawning it from that side. Oh well, I can fix that later. Now down here, there's a Pidgey on that railing, a Pidgey right there, 2 Pidgeys in the center there, a Pidgey on that lamppost, and a Pidgey on the railing behind it. So there's 6 more Pidgey, for a grand total of 6 there, 3 there, and the bunch on that roof. So you will be getting shiny Pidgeys. And then from here, just by standing at this point, you will also be spawning 2 Ekans down here. There's one under that tree, and then I think the other one is right there. A Haunter will also spawn down here at night. Over here we have another Pidgey, we have a Bellsprout, and we have an Elemental Monkey. Now, earlier today, I was going through Reddit, and I did see that someone said that after they had caught a shiny here, or, like, otherwise killed the spawn, they had, like, randomly they would show up and there would be 3 monkeys here. I don't know what that's about. Bare minimum, you're getting 1 roll for a monkey. What is shiny right now? Okay. Is it... well, we were getting to that, but there is a Spritzy down there that has a 50-50 chance to be a Squirtlix. I will save and go claim that in a minute, once I'm done on the roof. And then at night, there is a 50-50 chance to spawn a Mawile or a Shuppet right around here. And if you go all the way to the corner, if you really felt so inclined, although I don't think it's that worth it, you can spawn 2 Magikarp in down there. But other than the Magikarp, everything else I just listed will be in range if you're standing at the end of this plank. So I'm gonna go get that Spritzy. And yeah, so it is a 50-second run for effectively 5 to 9 spawns to check, but you will be getting a lot of incidental shinies along the way. And considering these are the only static Alpha Flabébé spawns in the game, I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. And the only other thing I will say is that obviously if you've been doing overload spawns for anything else, you'll be aware of this. But when you get 1 shiny out of the 3 up there, if you catch it, you will now be down to 2 spawns and have to reset for the 3rd spawn. So honestly, what I'm probably going to be doing with this strat is I'm going to be running it over and over and over again until I get all 3 shiny, collect them all, reset the whole thing, do it again, just to make sure I'm knocking out all 5 colors 3 times for my living dex. And yeah, that is pretty much the entirety of what I've found out in the past 48 hours of messing around with this. I've been thinking about these Flabébé spawns for a long time, ever since learning about spawn overloads, and I was really curious if this would work. Again, it is far from the fastest reset of overload shiny resets, but for what it is and what you get out of it, I think it's worth it, and I hope this helps. Happy hunting.